This week on Hermitcraft, head puns, a new nether hub, and cake. Welcome to the Hermitcraft recap. My name is PixelRiffs, our writer is ZloyXP, and DocM77 isn't the only one doing good work for charity on the Hermitcraft server. The Make-A-Wish Foundation got in touch with the Hermits and asked if one Hermitcraft fan could join the server and hang out with their favourite Minecrafters. So if you're wondering who that statue overlooking Hermit Street is, it's Duke the Dog. And the guy on his right is Mumbo. He's kind of been on the server for a while, guys. And while we could explain everything about the day Duke spent on Hermitcraft, why not let him explain for himself? There's a link to his video in the iCards, and yes, we're basically going to recap tag him right here and right now. So head over to his channel and comment, hope you had fun on Hermitcraft.
We had a special friend join the server for an evening. Oh, and this must be what they got up to.
Next up, the actual tag hasn't changed hands despite Scar giving a scare to a couple of members of the server, but there is something new to get hype about, a Grian headhunt competition. The rules are simple, collect as many Grian heads as you can before December 1st. Grian has hidden them all over the main island and no buying new ones from the villager is allowed. But here's the twist, you're not allowed to keep them in your inventory, or any inventory whatsoever. No chests, no hoppers or droppers or other things with a GUI. The heads each hermit finds must later be placed somewhere in the world. What's more, participants are allowed, nay, encouraged, to rob each other's stashes if they can get to them. And as your stash grows bigger and bigger, it will get increasingly easier for a rogue camera account to stumble upon it. So plenty of safety vaults are already hidden around the server, and yes, we'll be spoiling most of them right here in this video for your convenience. And with all that out of the way, let's take a look at all the events and mishaps that occurred on the Hermitcraft server this week.
3, 2, 1.
So, you remember how last time we said that we'll get to the mustache removal services later? Well, that later is now, as we return to that one time Jevin paid 3 stacks of diamond blocks to get a guy to change his skin.
But I'm gonna go with the Stashinator 9000.
Stashinator 9001, maybe?
Overpaid precisely 9 times because the original price in the book was only 3 stacks of regular diamonds, not diamond blocks. We say was because shortly after receiving the payment, Grian went back to the book and changed it to diamond blocks in an attempt to cover his tracks, at least until his conscience gets the better of him.
We're not a thief on this server, okay? We are definitely not a thief. But we are going to play this out for as long as possible.
2 can play at that game, however, and Iskal, who knows the portable mustache business quite well at this point, realises the book can still be edited and changes the asking price to 3 stacks of iron ingots. And that's why you always laminate your documents. Jevin himself had the whole conundrum retold to him by his fanbase and went on record saying that he is not in the slightest bothered and it was well worth it to him.
They can keep the diamonds. I'm not worried about it, and I think that it was a lot of fun to remove his mustache. That machine was amazing, by the way.
Perhaps he's planning to make it all back at the Jevin's Booty treasure map shop, now redesigned and residing in a graceful pirate ship built by Scar. Once he's moved in, Jevin changes the sails to black, stocks the place up with legitimate treasure maps, and of course, christens the vessel USS Booty.
Ahoy there, matey!
Arr.
That's my
Ahoy.
Australian pirate? Yeah.
I like that.
In more personal projects, he tweaks and fixes the creeper farm, solving the faulty water streams, repaints his sea ravine apartment from red to cyan, and for all the Grian hunters out there, makes a room to store his heads with a floor looking like Grian's face. So keep an eye out for that dead giveaway.
So we gotta remember to keep this super secret so nobody else can find this.
Speaking of things getting redone and repainted, the Community Nether Hub project kicks in this week, and we get a lengthy explanation of it by Azuma, shown in Jevin's video. We'll use a clip of it here just for the sheer insanity of us showing you footage of Jevin showing you footage of Azuma. Gotta go deeper, folks.
So here comes the exciting bit.
The gist of it is it's a 1:8 exact pixel art of the main island in a ginormous room to allow easier elytra access. Due to the 1:8 scale of the map, the portals will link up perfectly to the places they correlate with on the map, and yes, this is the very concept Azuma used for his personal base back in Season 1.
So we all got together, we figured out the plan of how this is going to work, thought through all the logistics, and we've even got a list of all the resources we're going to need and the different jobs that people want to do to help with it.
Thankfully, if the Season 5 community area taught us anything, it's that the Hermitcraft whitelist can accomplish anything if it throws itself at it hard enough. Another community project Azuma helps out with this week is the Hermitcraft Rail Network. With approval and feedback from Rendog, X manages to practically complete the very orange trolley line going through the shopping district. No shops or builds were harmed in the process, and with enough diving and rising, the line successfully reaches the pirate area of the server.
Now, I asked him recently about what he's doing about rails, and basically he was like, Azuma is building some, feel free to build some yourself.
At which point, the project is picked up by False Symmetry, and the pirate area is hooked into the fantasy one. This tunnel, however, went largely underwater to avoid ruining the view out of False's window. In between hunting down photocopies of Grian's face, Doc M also sets up a subsurface rail line, or rather the terminus for one, the Hermit Street subway station. There's so little space on that side of the commercial district that he has to dig up half of the striped lawn GoodTimesWith Scar laid there a couple of weeks ago, but it'll be worth it to take even more diamonds from people who want to ride the rails. At least he's got enough diamonds of his own that he can finally invest in Concorp.
Yeah, so they said bi-weekly dividends. So that should be 4 diamonds per week we get from them.
On the northern edges of the island, Joe Hills' Christmas District station is growing fast, or as fast as it can when he has to place hundreds of leaf blocks by hand. Joe gets a helping hand from Cubfan, who supplies as many spruce leaves as he can spare and needs to buy an iTrade pass just so he can mend his elytra, but it's all worth it to make a Christmas tree you'll be able to see from space. Naturally, Joe gets a little distracted when Grian leaves a few presents under the tree. Which, now I say it out loud, makes it sound like he pooped there. No, instead he just left his decapitated head lying around. I'm not sure which we'd prefer. But Joe spends the next 3 episodes touring the server to collect Grian heads, and by the end of his search he has a whopping total of 143, which, headhunt spoiler alert, he leaves in a Pac-Man inspired maze on the nether roof.
Green, 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 green.
We're secretly hoping a ghast spawns up there so he can try and eat it. Rendog stumbles upon a few Grian heads while he's detailing Grand Central Station, although he's so confused by it that he has to get an explanation from the one head that's still attached to a Grian. With the exposition over, Grian challenges him to a Top Gun tour of the server, which puts him in the danger zone once or twice.
Alright, just follow me from here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is where it's going to start getting intense.
Oh, jeez.
Swallow. Where did you even die?
But in the meantime, Ren has been busy trying to lock down the log business, even going so far as to bribe Scar and Cub into shutting down the undercut barge with promises of big gravel. At the same time, he declares it Log Friday and puts all the big logs on sale for half price. It's a gambit that pays off, bringing in a handful of diamonds by the next episode. However, the Big Rocks business might have a rocky start thanks to Cub shutting down the convex super smelter due to illegal usage by stray Rendogs. Ren's solution to this is to believe in fairies, setting up a super smelter of his own in the fantasy grotto he shares with False Symmetry.
It almost looks like a home for a fairy, right? It's like this is the entrance into the house and maybe this is their balcony, and through some magical magic, the fairies are going to be cooking down the things that we're smelting.
False's own business enterprise starts out as a cozy record disc shop in the Derp Mall just so she can get rid of the many vinyls provided by her creeper farm now that Spotify is a thing. Between that and the Fantasy District line, the Grian headhunt derails her quite a bit. The spoils are stored in a small room under her base she specifically shows on camera, only to empty it out between videos and leave a "You've been jingled" sign instead.
And I thought I'd leave like a bit of a troll for if any hermits did come down here.
This has led many to believe that False really is the infamous jingler prankster, and she certainly has the chops for it, but we're not buying it. Pranked Symmetry would never go uncredited on her jingulations for 18 weeks.
Lol. Trolled you.
Iskal85 puts a lot of effort into his Grian head storage room once he's collected them from around his ice base and figured out why the Sphinx suddenly has eyeballs.
That's hilarious.
His new vault is visible to anyone swimming around his base, but the idea is that you should open the vault door with a special key item only Iskal knows about, and he gets to keep any of the wrong guesses the other hermits throw in.
Because I'm hoping that other hermits will try and figure out what item is the correct item. If you want to make this super secure, you want to write like a protected book. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use a Minecraft item and see if anyone figures this out.
So far, only TangoTek correctly guessed the item on a live stream with some help from his chat, but he had the bad luck of the Swedish assassin actually being there to defend the place when he stepped through the door. Meanwhile, Azuma, in true Azuma fashion, just breaks through the glass ceiling. On a copy of the world, and not the actual Hermitcraft server. This clearly upset some people who didn't watch the video the whole way through and thought it was the real deal. So let us clarify, it isn't. The actual Iskall vault is still intact. Frankly, the pair of us are more upset that he didn't just go the easy way around because we thought it was pretty funny. So Iskall doesn't have to stress about people breaking into his vault, but there's other stuff on the server grinding his gears right now, whether it's creative block for his ice base, or Rendog selling diorite in bulk outside of the Black Pearl Prismarine Emporium.
Oh man.
And speaking of stress, Stress Monster returns to the server in style this week. After spending a few weeks away from Hermitcraft, the first thing she does is put on her Ice Queen regalia, head over to the Industrial District, and issue a cease and desist to Azuma's ice factory.
Inconspicuous, is it? There's a big sign! I feel like we need to do something about this.
That'll show him. She's also not too sure why Grian's head seems to be everywhere at her iceberg fort, but no problem, he probably just dropped it, let's give all those back. Luckily, by the next episode she's had the headhunt explained by her comments section, and Grian does the decent thing of returning the heads so she can get her head start back. Progress on the fort continues, but not in the direction you might expect. The latest expansion adds an upside-down tower. Zombie Cleo 2 is back on the server, and to offset those people who play Christmas music in September, finishes her Halloween build 3 weeks after the holiday.
Because I had like ideas and stuff, and you know, it's always nice.
The last detail of the Cod Children Eater's house is a boiling cauldron in the basement. The brew, made of a guy, his boots, and some carrots, promises to be delicious. With all this talk of safety vaults, you can't rule out TFC, who has been building a vault this entire season. His wasn't intended to store hundreds of Grian heads, it's definitely an added bonus, although he does accidentally fake himself out by sellotaping a llama head to the wall of his storage room.
Oh, there's a head on the wall over here. Wait a minute, that's one I put there because I didn't have any other place to put it.
He also almost takes down the cod head outside iTrade, but in the end, he grabs half a stack of Grians and hides them away in a secret stone room. Although the thumbnail for his next video shows him and Cubfan standing in that room, so I guess it didn't stay secret for long. That video went up on Saturday though, so more on that next week. This is where we remind you that we cover the show on a Friday to Friday basis, and between the two latest Fridays, Cubfan himself has not really shown any interest at all in the headhunt, which probably explains why he hasn't already won. For the time being, his focus is finishing the cake factory and its more functional bits. The main ingredients for confectionery production line are now provided by a cow named Old Betsy, who has more milk in her than you have buckets, an egg farm that somehow distinguishes between the good and bad eggs even though the game itself doesn't, and a wheat gathering farmer villager courtesy of Impulse SV, exchanged for a number of Concorp shares when all the guy asked for was diamonds. Cub's other technological feats are a creeper farm in the middle of the ocean and a machine that kills you. Plus, him and Scar went through everyone's shareholder benefit books and were a bit too honest with them.
Your elytra will break mid-flight. Oh, that's always a fun experience. Falses. Every block is off by 1 block.
Impulse ends up getting his diamonds from elsewhere. One beacon mining Q&A session and Ijevin overpaying at the gold shop puts his wallet back in good shape. And with his promise to supply trees to Rendog firmly in mind, Impulse assembles an industrial district tree farm which will work with any kind of tree, including a double action mode for acacia trees. I'm putting one of those on my Christmas list right now. Rather than relying on trapping a wither this time though, Impulse does the environmentally friendly thing of raiding Tango's mob farm for gunpowder and loading the whole thing up with TNT. How the two of them have a gunpowder farm is a mystery to this show because we don't cover live streams. The way we see it, they just did this whole massive thing off screen. The plan for it, by the by, is to electrify these green boys and strategically throw them at wither skeletons from the wither skeleton farm, producing a 1-to-1 wither skull ratio and plenty of crossbones banners for the pirate district. Anyway, dance break! Tango's hole-in-the-ground base sees some more love this week. To stretch his architectural muscles, Mr. Tech builds the first fairy-like house at the grassy hills of the cave floor. If the previous seasons are anything to go by, this is as far out of his comfort zone as possible, and a great build, all things considered. Now to trap a villager in it.
Vegetation is growing in pretty heavy though. I may need to tone it down a bit, but I kinda like it.
But when talking about Tango, one can't not mention his personal preference for storing collected Grian faces out in the open, but somewhere in the vast and indistinguishable islands of the outer end. He straight up shows the place on camera, but not the way to get there. Only way to find out would be to track him down as soon as he delivers another batch. So it's only a matter of time before someone right-clicks him in spectator mode and goes along for the ride.
Good luck to whoever wants to find them. I have 50 skulls, and I plan on getting quite a bit more.
You won't need this trick with Good Times with Scar though, he showed his hidey spot right in his video. Unless of course Scar's playing us for a fool and has already relocated the whole stash. For him, the actual gathering of the heads started long before he knew what it was all about. The guy just wanted to clean his base of stray shulker boxes and found the heads along the way. The new way to store stuff is to cram it into small houses in the inner walls of his volcano, with spruce pathways leading from one to another.
And it really made me think about how has the new textures really helped you, like, change the way you build. And I realized when I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't think they have. And they're like, no, they really have, because I would never have used these two materials. I love them now. They're beautiful.
Scar also stops by the Concorp Country Club and starts the construction of the actual clubhouse. For now, it is but a shell of the first story, but you can already see the beginnings of the good life.
Chocolate in hand, and Bob the Creeper building inspector getting ready to inspect one last building in his life. Bob.
And finally, there's Grian. There's also Mumbo, but even then, Grian is constantly lurking in the background of the video. Actually, now we think about it, he lurks in the foreground for bits of it as well. Like the bits where Grian casually stops by to drop off a stack and a half of diamond blocks, courtesy of iJevin displacing Mumbo's facial hair. Or the bit where Grian is so impatient for his own supply of firework rockets that he helps Mumbo dig out his sea level to bedrock creeper farm in half the time. But in the rare moments when Grian isn't around, Mumbo tries his hand at terraforming a neighbouring island into something more digital looking, as a template for Good Times with Scar to follow when he has time to work on the main island. He also walls in last week's sugarcane farm and routes all his existing farms up into the storage system. We'd say he's putting all his eggs in one basket, but Grian's the one putting eggs everywhere. And in the meantime, Grian adds some terracotta highlights to his own base, some during a Q&A time-lapse. It's nice to see someone likes their base enough to put a ring on it. The earlier Eye of Sauron prank seemingly inspires him to try adding something circular and nether portal-y between the horn towers at the very top. So much so that Grian mocks up the 3 designs in his creative test world and lets his fanbase decide which one to go with. Does not forget the poll in the iCards. Kudos. Lastly, you can now hire your very own Grian to help you finish any prank on anyone of your liking, but you can't purchase quartz from his travelling merchant shop if your name is Zedaf. Having seen what the constant buyouts by Big Logs did to the Concorp barge, Grian's decided to prevent the whole thing on the spot and flat out ban Zedaf from his store. And that's just about it for this week's recap. Our writer is LoyXP, and my name is Pixel Riffs. If you're wondering where RECAPTAG is, you clearly weren't paying attention to the beginning of the video. Go back and watch it again. When you're done with that, consider watching us do our thing on our personal channels. The links are in the end screen theatre as usual. Don't forget to leave a like while you're still here and subscribe so you won't miss future recaps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.